All right. We will go ahead and get started. Just real quick, if you haven't seen our poll yet, please do vote in our poll so we can have an understanding of how COVID-19 has affected your summer plans in this atypical summer. So again, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. I know there'll be a lot of people who are looking forward to viewing this on our recording that we'll post on our YouTube page. So please, if you're with us here live today, feel free to share that with your network and your colleagues when we send the recap of today's meeting out to you later. So again, my name is Tom Haggard. I'm the director of the Kentucky Out of School Alliance. I did want to share just a few updates about our work, what we do, and kind of what we've been up to over the past few weeks. So I'm going to share my screen real quick with everybody. Can everybody see that? My screen share? Awesome, great. So just for those who are new to our town halls or don't know much about the Kentucky Out of School Alliance, we were established a little over 10 years ago. We are a statewide network dedicated to providing support to after-school summer learning providers, professionals, and advocates. We are part of the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation After School State Network. So we're very fortunate to have sister organizations just like ours in all 50 states. So we collaborate with them often. One of our current projects, we're actually collaborating with all 50 states on our summer learning guides that we'll share in just a few slides. Also, we are Kentucky's After School Alliance state affiliate. So the After School Alliance is based in Washington, D.C., serves as the national organization for policy and advocacy when it comes to after-school programs, especially the 21st Century Community Learning Program. We also are our state affiliate of the National After-School Association. So if you've not gone on to the National After-School Association website yet, I would encourage you to do that. They have a litany of resources for out-of-school time professionals, including, on-demand trainings. They have a great newsletter that comes out. In addition, you can sign up to be a member of NAA, and they also have some special things that come out to you if you sign up to become a member. We're also fiscally sponsored by Save the Children. So we're excited for today's virtual town hall where you'll get to hear from our colleagues at Save the Children about all the great work that they're doing here in Kentucky as well. Kind of who we are also is we are an alliance of individuals and organizations. So we want to be a big tent of everyone who is invested and interested in providing high quality out of school time learning experiences for kids throughout the Commonwealth. So you're part of this alliance now for joining us on today's town hall. So thank you. And also, if you know of other organizations or colleagues of yours that are interested in this work, please always continue to share our mission and what we're doing so that we can include them in the work. There's obviously safety in numbers for sure. What we do, we act as that network of support. So we have professional learning opportunities on our website. We try to bring resources from our national partners to Kentucky to help program providers with anything that they're having troubles with. We want to act as connectors for providers and other resources. So to help you connect with other programs in the state of Kentucky who are facing similar challenges as yours, or helping to connect you with resources. That's something that we want to do as well. And obviously the third leg of that stool is to advocate for local, state, and federal resources. So we are happy to speak on your behalf to different policymakers around the state and in Washington to take the incredible stories of the work that you're doing on behalf of kids and families in Kentucky and show them how they're really making a difference in our communities every single day. So I did want to make sure that everyone is familiar with our website. I'm actually going to bring up our website real quick to show you a couple of things. One, we do have a COVID-19 resource page. And on this resource page now, we recently updated it with some reopening resources. So these are a couple of different resources that can help you tell the story about why after school is important when it comes to having conversations with school principals or school district administrators about the importance of having after school programs as we reopen. In addition, we do have some sample language in here that you can use if you're writing an email or a letter to school district administrators to talk about why after school is important and how you as an after school program or professional can play a role in reopening. Also, we want to make sure everyone is able to check out our free summer activity guide. We have a lot of materials on here now, including different quick guides and resources for how to engage students virtually. We have 4 of the 5 units out right now. So we want to make sure that you can get those. They are revolving around a couple of different lessons around healthy life, passion and purpose. Our new one that just came out this week is invention and imagination. So it is a STEAM-focused activities. And you can see we have activities for all ages. You can download the supply list. We also have videos on there to help you with the implementation of that work. So we're really excited about that. Did just want to also bring this to your attention. The After School Alliance is asking for youth stories. So if you're working with youth, 13 years or older, they are asking them to submit a short story, creative art piece, just showing their experience over the past few months. So they'd be interested to win some prizes. They could also be invited to apply to become an After School Alliance Youth Ambassador. So that would be a great honor if we could get a youth ambassador from the state of Kentucky. So we'll send out the link and more information about this program in our notes from today's meeting. So you can take a look at that. So right now I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm also going to close our poll. And now we're going to move into our Save the Children part of the meeting today. So I'm excited to welcome Alissa Taylor, who is our state director for Save the Children programs in Kentucky and also West Virginia. And so I'm going to let her introduce herself and the team that she's brought with her to talk about Save the Children programs. If you have questions while they are presenting, please feel free to use the chat function. Also, we'll have some time at the end for questions and answers as well. So I'll turn it over to you all.
Thanks, Tom. We're really happy to be here today. We value our partnership with KYOSA and the Out of School Alliance and look forward to always collaborating with others as well. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I can get my, okay, just a second here. Okay, can everyone see my screen? All right, I'll start by telling you a little bit about Save the Children and what we do in the state of Kentucky. And then my colleagues, Sarah Belanger, Neysa Cordial, and Travis Estridge will be speaking about specific program components that we've been running this summer and updates on what we're up to. So Save the Children, we have a national presence as a leader in rural childhood education. We actually began working in the great state of Kentucky in 1932, so we've been around for a really long time here in our state, responding to the needs of Appalachian families starting out during the Great Depression in Harlan County, and we're working in Harlan County currently as well. We provide a continuum of education, social, emotional, and nutrition programs in the highest need areas of the state. So these include our early childhood program, which we call Early Steps to School Success. We have in-school and after-school programs for our school-age side. We have a summer camp we call Summer Boost, and a kindergarten transition program as well for incoming kindergartners. We partner with 70 schools across 14 counties with a focus on rural. So that is mostly where we work in the state of Kentucky. We have a lot of partners that we work with. I'll name a few of them: Strive Together, Partners for Education at Berea College, Kentucky Youth Advocates, the Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood, and of course the Department of Education, and last but not least, the Kentucky Out of School Alliance. We also have a lot of other collaboration and partnerships with organizations around the state that we work with as well. So our programs, we do measure progress and the impact that we have on children, and we have really strong results that we've seen. So in our early childhood program, 90% of 3-year-olds and 85% of 5-year-olds are scoring within or above the normal range for vocabulary acquisition. So this is a key development and indicator of school readiness, and one of our large objectives for the year. 85% of regularly participating students in our literacy program make significant gains that equate to an additional 9.3 months of schooling per year for each of those children, which is a significant impact as well. And 74% of our participating students in after-school math made significant gains during the school year in their math scores as well. So as you all know, everything changed a little bit in March with the school closures and the start of the pandemic here in our state. So we adapted quickly and made some changes to our program activities. We wanted to make sure that the children in rural Kentucky were still being served, and that at this time they needed more support now than ever, and we wanted to make sure their needs were met. So the team, I couldn't be more proud of the team for making these quick changes to ensure that we could either provide virtual support or printed packets for distributions on school bus routes or through drive-through lines to make sure that we were still reaching children. We were also distributed over $2 million worth of donated items. This is from our corporate partners. Some of them we called boredom busters, so game boards to promote family engagement, personal protective equipment, hygiene items like toothpaste, toothbrushes, diapers, also a lot of developmental toys and games that we were able to hand out to families. And so those have went over really well and have just kept us engaged with the families in rural Kentucky so we can continue to know what the needs are and help them to encourage family engagement as they're all home together quarantining right now. We've also partnered with schools to distribute over 350,000 meals in March and April alone. So we did work with the school districts to provide transportation and also funding for drive-through lines as well. All right, so let's see who's up next. Sarah Belanger from our Early Steps to School Success program. She is an early childhood expert, is going to talk to you a little bit about what we've been doing in Early Steps.
Okay, thank you, Alissa, and I will apologize. My camera is not working, so you just have to see a picture of me. But Early Steps to School Success is our early childhood program with Save the Children, and there's different components. We have home visitors, which are also called early childhood coordinators. We have, and these home visitors visit families who have children, either a pregnant mom or children from birth up to 3 years old, and they provide educational opportunities for those parents and those children. Then we also have early childhood ambassadors, and the purpose of that position is to provide children who have not had an opportunity, who are aged 3 to 5, who've not had any opportunity to have any early learning experiences to prepare them for kindergarten. The ambassadors provide early learning groups around the county in very rural areas so that parents who have transportation issues would have an opportunity to find out what it's about to be ready for kindergarten and to help their children and themselves prepare. Children, we know, do much better in school if they start out on the right foot. And then we have in Perry County, through collaboration with Partners for Education and Berea College, we have what we call early childhood navigators. The purpose for that position is to be able to help child care facilities improve the quality of their work with children. So we've got a lot of what we say boots on the ground in Perry and Knott counties and several other counties, of course, across Kentucky. So working remotely has been quite a challenge, but it's also been a vehicle for some really creative ways to help these families in need. Um, and through help, through collaboration, utilizing technology, uh, using the donations that have been provided through our donors, and just really sitting down and, as they say, thinking outside the box. These individuals have come up with some incredible ways to reach our families. So Alissa alluded to remote home visits, and if you could go to the next slide, Alissa. That innovation, this is a very small representation of photographs that just give a little example of how my gang has really utilized technology to benefit the families in their counties. To start out with, each of the home visitors, the navigators, as well as the ambassador have closed groups on Facebook. As you'll see, the West Perry Early Steps, that's one of the closed groups that they share with the families that are on their caseload. And it seems like almost all families are pretty savvy with Facebook, and that is one way that we found that our coordinators can reach families during this time. The families can share information and photos without a concern of everyone on Facebook seeing it. And so what our staff does is they set up group video calls through Messenger, and it allows the families to be able to talk to each other and have that group feeling. Sometimes we use Zoom calls, but Facebook seems to be a very good vehicle in Messenger. Normally, our home visitors and our ambassador have monthly parent-child groups. And so what a lot of the coordinators have done is they have done individual parent-child groups on Facebook so that they can all be involved real time, or they might video themselves going over the information, and then the parents can review the video at their leisure and comment on it. But one of the things that I thought was very creative that they did, each of them took a portion of the parent-child group, and you can see the group of pictures there at the upper right or left-hand corner, where they each took a part of the group and they videoed it and they put it together as a group video. And it was lovely because it gave each of the coordinators an opportunity to touch base with each other and come up with some good ideas. And we know that human contact is very important for not only the families that we work with, but also the staff that we have working there. They've done some other really great ideas. You'll see right in the middle with the young lady with Vroom and the even younger lady there at her side. They created a little cooking group that they do on Facebook. Vroom is an initiative with one of our partners, the Bezos Family Foundation, and Vroom is their vehicle to help parents understand that everyday things they do with their children can actually be brain-building moments. So my home visitors have done an incredible job utilizing these Vroom tips that they share with their families and show how they can help their family or their children learn in just the easiest ways. Right next to that, you'll see Tamara Jacobs. She is our Knott County Early Childhood Coordinator. She does an incredible job putting things on Facebook. This particular video even had children singing and it had children reading, and she gave a lot of great information on this, and they're all available on Facebook, and they just do a great job. The bottom left-hand corner, you see several faces. This represents a parent group that we had started in Perry and Knott counties through another partner called 0 to 3. This was a pilot group called Positive Parenting. We met once a month. The families loved it, but then when the pandemic hit, the families wanted to continue, and they learned how to do Zoom calls. And so we continued to meet once a month, and it was a wonderful opportunity for families to share their successes, their frustrations, and just get good information about being a parent. Week of the Young Child is an initiative that NAEYC, which is the National Association for the Education of Young Children. Normally it's a week-long activity in April, full of activities every day to celebrate the education of young children. And my group had worked so hard to have all this prepared. This whole week, every day was going to have other activities around the county, and they had to put it on the internet instead. So they went virtual, and they came up with really incredible ideas. Right at the bottom, you'll see a photograph of the county sheriff. And so what they did, the community was so involved in it. Across the county, they had the sheriff, they had judges, they had the police department, they had just lots of different officials across the city and the county. Each official would read a page from The Very Hungry Caterpillar, and then they would hand the book off screen, and it would show the next person getting the book and reading it as well. So that was a lovely opportunity for children to see these important people in the county reading. And then, of course, there on the bottom right, you'll see another one of our staff people reading. There were so many people who were just really excited and interested in reading books, video of themselves reading books. And so children from anywhere could get online and have a good book read to them. And often families would be involved as well, and children would even read to other children. It's been really lovely to see that. So these are just a few of the examples of how they've utilized technology. Next slide, please. And so when we think about collaboration, thinking outside the box, using donations, this team has done an amazing job with that as well. So you'll see the upper left-hand corner, several baskets. And again, this is Tammy Jacobs in Knott County. She is a whiz at making use of the different things that have been donated to Save the Children. She organizes them into individual baskets from her caseload of families. Each home visitor is required to visit 20 children. And so she has 20, often this might be 20 families, or it could be 15 if they have multiple children under the age of 3. But she uses these items and she groups them with activities and room tips, or perhaps an educational experience that goes with our curriculum that we've created for Save the Children. She will then deliver those out to the porches or to the front doors of the families. And then she follows up with a video call or a phone call, and she takes the family through the activities that she has provided them the materials with. And the picture right next with the little boy and the dad, that is one of the things that they were able to create together using some of the materials that came from these particular baskets. This was called her art and activity basket. And then the upper right-hand corner, you'll see our ambassador, that's Kim Bowling. And she's taking advantage of our Rosie, the readiness bus that we acquired through, again, our partnership with Berea College and Partners for Education. And Kim is showing here, bringing activities. She utilized the partnership with the families, with the schools when they did the taking food to families. Initially, Kim would go along with them as well as our other coordinators, and to take that opportunity to deliver the activities and the educational items to the families. You see the bottom left-hand corner, some of the children being so excited, going through all of the great resources that were being delivered through Kim. And then you'll see Kim right in the middle. Rain or shine, she delivered things to families. One of the partnerships also, we put together bags of information and resources for the county health department to provide to families when families would come in. This picture was in the beginning of the pandemic, when not everybody realized that masks and social distancing were very important, but you'll see that they did a wonderful job getting information out to the families. And then if you could just click once more, I just think this is such a great picture that really shows our families are isolated. They are very rural. They have transportation issues already. But to have somebody that they can count on that will visit them and bring them resources and books and activities for the parents and the children to work on together and enjoy that time together. You know, even though we have the barrier of walls and windows and doors that are separating our staff with the families they normally work with, they have been able to make such a um, great contact with families and given the families a positive foot to move forward during these troubled times. Our coordinators and ambassadors, they have contact weekly with families so the families don't feel like they're left alone on their own. So it's just been lovely to see. And these individuals, I can't tell you how wonderful they are to work with, and they've done a great job. So I think that's it.
Thank you, Sarah. That was great. Before we move on, does anyone have any questions on our early childhood program? Or Tom, were there any comments in the chat box?
No comments in the chat box as of right now.
All right. We will move on then. Let me get my, I'm sorry, Sarah, I didn't mean to click through quickly. I did that by accident the first time. So our school age programs, I'd like to introduce Neysa Cordial, our school age program specialist, to talk about what we've been up to with our school age kids.
Hi, and thanks for having us on, Tom. This is an exciting opportunity to share all of our good news, and I think we're all excited to share because it has really been, you know, a hard time, but also a time where we've been able to see that people are really flexible and really creative, and some people have really been able to shine through all this. So and a lot of those people are our coordinators. And like Alissa said, we serve 70 schools in Kentucky. And so many of those schools normally participate in what we call Summer Boost Camp, which is a 6-week in-person camp. And of course, this year, because of the pandemic, we had to rethink that because of safety measures. And we are providing virtual camps and materials for almost all of our sites across Kentucky, which is really incredible. And so it looked different kind of everywhere, but a lot of the coordinators started hosting, just like Sarah was saying, utilizing Facebook groups, Facebook Messenger, Zoom calls, and doing their lessons that they would normally do in front of the kids over Zoom. It's not ideal, but it also did open up a lot of flexibility for parents and children and the coordinators alike to engage with one another. Here you'll see a picture of one of our coordinators, and she was leading the kids through a Ravel lesson. She was reading the story out loud, and then she was going through some vocabulary problems. But we had coordinators that were doing Zoom bingo calls and hosting math games and ER sight word games over Zoom, and it was really just incredible. And even if they couldn't get online and be active live, it was oftentimes recorded or done on Facebook Live so that the families could go back at a time where that was convenient for them, and they could still participate and comment and engage that way. So it was really, really nice to see so many people thinking outside the box and rising up to meet our families and our children where they are during this time. So Alissa, if you want to go on to the next slide. And one of the best things that we came out of all of this was being able to see the videos and the pictures that the families shared of the children. The screenshot here of the little boys playing, they were playing a math card game. It's actually from a video, so that's why it's a little bit blurry, but the boy was jumping up and cheering, and his little brother there was actually not even in the program because he is not school age yet, but he was participating as well. So I think that that is, you know, something really great that came out of all of this is it didn't just impact the kids that were dropped off at camp every day. You know, the families really got way more involved, even the younger siblings, cousins. I mean, anybody that was in the household was involved. And you'll see here in a little bit, even pets were involved. But that was something I think that is really great that came out of all of this, is it showed our families and our kids and our staff that learning doesn't have to happen inside of a school building. It can happen anywhere. And I feel like parents feel a lot more empowered now. That was something that we heard a lot um, from the feedback that we got, was that parents feel empowered to be able to do these engaging activities and help their children learn at home in fun ways. So you'll see here there's a little girl and she's reading a book. We sent home backpacks full of materials. They got tons of books, tons of manipulatives. They got cards for math games and healthy choice games. They got dice, jump ropes, frisbees, pretty much anything you can think of that they would need to learn at home over the summer. We sent it home with them, and the kids were so excited, just like Sarah was saying, to get all of these materials, to get the new books, and to get a jump rope to play outside. I mean, it just made their day. They loved that, getting those backpacks full of materials, and the families were really thankful too. But we were a little worried going into this that, families wouldn't be as engaged because maybe some burnout from the spring, because things were tired and we were all kind of in crisis management mode. But we were really surprised to see that we had great feedback from the family. They were super engaged. I think that because it was flexible and they could do it on their own time, um, it helped, because we would have families coming. They were excited to share the videos. They were excited to share pictures of their children learning on the Facebook groups. Um, so here's pictures of children reading and doing some math games. And Alissa, if you want to go to the next slide. Here are some children doing some STEM activities, which was definitely a fan favorite of the children. They all loved the STEM activities. We provided weekly STEM challenges, and at the beginning of the week, a lot of our staff would challenge the kids with the STEM challenge and kind of go over how they might do it, what materials they might need, get themselves prepared. The children would work on it throughout the week, and then on Fridays they would have a share out where they could share their creations. And so here you'll see there was some little paper airplane races that we had a challenge going on to see who could get theirs to fly the farthest. We had a tower stacking challenge, and then a structure challenge with Play-Doh and toothpicks, and he even got his little doggy involved. I thought was super cute. And I love that they're just in their pajamas and in their element and having fun at home learning. And I hope that through all of this, that this can continue even after this pandemic. Um, Along with the STEM challenges, we also provided a weekly virtual field trip that tied into that theme. And so that was really exciting too. The kids were provided online links, but if they weren't able to get online, they also had extension activities that they could do that weren't virtual. One of them was like touring a volcano, and they could create a volcano, and we provided all the materials for that as well. So that was really uh, pretty cool. So, Alissa, you can go on to the next slide. Of course, one of the biggest worries that we had at the beginning of all of this was the food insecurity. If children aren't coming to school, how are they going to get the meals that so many of our children rely on? And we saw our staff, it was probably one of the more heartwarming things that happened through all this. Our staff rose up, they were there, they met anybody that needed the help. They were there packing the lunches, delivering them, getting on school buses, taking them out. And they came back and gave us stories like, children were running down to meet the school bus. They were so excited to just see a human that they knew, and also to get the food every day. So those were some really heartwarming stories that came out of this. But also we saw how dedicated that our staff was to our children, because this was something that was definitely above and beyond their normal call of duty, and they answered that. So it was really pretty awesome. Let's see, you can go on to the next slide. Oh, that was the last one. Was that the last one? I guess that was. All right. Well, we'll hand it back over to Alissa.
Thanks, Neysa. I love seeing the creativity for implementing out-of-school time programs across the state, and also seeing the kids enjoying them so much. Tom, are you still monitoring our chat box? Are there any questions we need to address now or comments?
No comments in the chat, but I did have a question for Neysa. Just trying to think about, obviously, I think a lot of programs in this new summer program, right? We've been trained now for a couple of years to really focus on evaluation. How do we evaluate the programs that we're delivering in person? How did that kind of thought process change for you all when you had to adapt to COVID-19?
Yeah, so that was something that we did have to think about, and we kind of developed a checklist for our coordinators, and they were doing weekly calls. So that were individual. So when they would do those calls, they would check in with the families. A lot of times they would do FaceTime so that they could actually see the child and see their work that they've completed, and maybe even do a book talk with that child to kind of get an idea of how they're doing academically. It was definitely more of a challenge, but that was something that we implemented to kind of, since the kids weren't there in person with us, so that we can kind of do our normal data checklist. That was something that we use as an alternative.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, now we'll move on to Travis Estridge, a community engagement specialist, and he's going to talk to us a bit about how we interacted with the community to ensure needs were met throughout the pandemic. So Travis, you're up, and just let me know when to flip through.
Go ahead and flip to the next one. Thank you guys for having me here today. I'm excited to talk about our community-facing work and what we've been doing since COVID. Just a little bit about what we do with community engagement. All of our community engagement efforts focus on increasing access and awareness around early literacy, primarily K readiness and third grade reading. You heard Sarah and Neysa talk about our great programs, our early steps and school age programs. Those programs have great results for children, but unfortunately we can't, those programs can't be offered to all kids. And so with our work, we're wanting to have more population level reach and do that in a more cost-effective way. As you all know, programs can be cost prohibitive for a lot of organizations and school systems. So the work that we do has kind of cast a wider net, and with our work with other partners and stuff, it tends to be a little bit more cost effective. And so how we do this work is one of the main things that we have are these community collaboratives. And these are groups of community members who come together on a regular basis, and we talk about early literacy. We study the situation in the community, and we come up with low cost strategies to help combat those. So these groups are comprised of businesses, local government, churches, folks from the health sector, anyone in the community who wants to see families and children receive more. We also have a lot of presence at community events and meetings. A lot of our coordinators, you heard both Sarah and Neysa talk about coordinators. We have coordinators as well, and they attend local meetings and events. They'll attend the Kiwanis meetings, the Rotary meetings, things like that, and they're there to talk about the work that we're wanting to achieve in that community. We collaborate with a lot of community partners on various activities. Something that we're able to do is add value to already established programs and events. We receive a lot of what we call GIK, gift in kind resources, and we get a lot of great books. And so those books go a long way when it comes to creating partnerships with other organizations. They don't have the funds to provide reading materials and things like that, and we're able to bring those to those partners. Yeah, and like I just mentioned, we distribute a lot of those resources to partners who have access to families. A lot of times there are kids out there in the communities or families that we can't reach, and so we have to rely on our community partners. A lot of times it's folks like churches who do a great job of helping us reach those families that are most marginalized. Next slide, please. So as you can imagine, since the pandemic, our community engagement work has not been what it was. We're used to going out, meeting people, going out to large events, shaking hands. We can't do that anymore for a little while. So, so we've had to adapt quite a bit. And since COVID-19, our online presence has increased. Our community meetings are all online now. We're doing those through Zoom. So that's been different. We're used to having very informal meetings with food and refreshments and fellowship before and after the meeting, and so it's been a little different, but we're still doing well with those meetings. It's just the dynamics of it has changed. And we're also doing a lot with Facebook and those type of things. Before the pandemic, we used Facebook primarily for advertising, events and things like that. But now we're having to do more activities. And so an example is story time with local heroes. That's where the sheriff or a pastor or someone who is very known, who's well known in the community, will go on Facebook and read a story, and that's been a very popular activity. But the bulk of our focus with community engagement is helping to distribute very needed resources to children and families. Both Neysa and Sarah have talked some. We utilize a wide network of different partners to do this. One of our best and greatest partners is the faith-based community. We rely a lot on churches to help us distribute very much needed materials. Some of the things that we have distributed this spring and summer is books and educational materials, games and toys, food, hygiene products, and some physical activity kits. We know that a lot of children are probably not getting a lot of exercise and getting outside like they should, and so we've been providing them with these kits that have jump ropes and chalk, anything that can help them get out in front of a screen and outside. We'll go to the next slide, Alissa. So here's a few pictures. The picture on the left, that's Tammy Metters. She is our community engagement coordinator in Whitley County, Kentucky. And there she is dropping off a bag of goodies for a family. This particular neighborhood that she's in is called Canada Town, and it is a very isolated part of Whitley County, and it's home to some of the most marginalized families in Whitley. And within that community is a church called Canada Town Fellowship Church, and they offer summer programs for kids, and we work with them very closely. There's probably about 30 to 40 families in that community who need all the help that they can get, and so Tammy actually lives in that area, and so she's all the time keeping tabs on families in that community and providing them with any and all resources that we have. And there on the right is some kiddos in that community who are enjoying some of those GIK resources that we have distributed. So in addition to getting those resources out to families, we've been doing some innovative things. One of my favorite things about working with Save the Children is that we're an organization that looks for opportunities in times of crisis. And so our leadership had a couple months ago provided us with a very good, some funding that we can use for a summer reading challenge. And our state leadership thought it would be a great way to help not only increase our reach in finding more partners, but also in helping more families. So we started a summer reading challenge, and we opened it up to pretty much anyone in the state of Kentucky. And so I was running the numbers today, and as of today, we're working with about 30 partners on this summer reading challenge, and this is where we provide them with funds to create a summer reading program. They can use that funding for incentives or whatever they wish. And so out of the 30 partners we've signed up, 70% of those have been new partners. We're now in, because of that, we're in 17 counties that we typically don't provide services for. So through this, even though this pandemic has been very hard, it has opened up new doors for us and new partners and new families. So that's about it for me. If anyone have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
We don't have any questions in the chat specifically for Travis, but we do have just a couple of general questions. I don't know if who wants to field some of these, but a couple of our general questions were, obviously a lot of programs have been stung by cut budgets because of COVID-19 and really had to scramble on how to provide, you know, the same amount of service that they did pre-pandemic. Can any of you talk about like how you've been creative around fundraising or getting the resources that you need to continue to do the work?
Yeah, I can speak to that, Tom. Of course, a lot of places and organizations are facing funding issues. And so what I have seen improve since the pandemic is collaboration efforts among like-minded organizations. We have been reaching out to many other organizations, and we found that everyone is reciprocating that and willing to work together. So pooled resources is one really creative way that people can continue to provide services to families in communities and ensure that needs are being met throughout the state of Kentucky. That's been one of the most efficient ways that I've seen so far. Also, there's a lot of federal funding available and public funding available. It's available only to specific organizations, but I think a lot of them are looking for ideas and partnerships and collaborations. So if you can stay in tune with what the federal funding and public funding options are that are supporting the pandemic crisis or coming down to fund any issues with the pandemic, you can reach out and ask them if they're looking for partnerships, if they need help implementing, if you have common goals that you can align and work together to reach more kids. I think that's the best way to move forward.
I think you bring up some really great points in that, especially I think now everyone is really seeing the benefits of collective impact work, right? And when we all have to lean in together for sure. I do want to point out also on KYOSA's website, on our COVID-19 resource page, we also have resources on there for programs to be able to start a conversation with their local school district about utilizing some of the CARES Act funding that came down to school districts through the governor's office. So definitely check that out if you're a program looking to, you know, figure out how you can tap in to some of that. So we did get a question just right now in the chat. How can a community become part of Save the Children's network?
I can send out and provide my contact information. And of course, if there's interest, you can always reach out to me. My email is ataylor, ATAYLOR, @savechildren.org. We're always looking for new partnerships, and we're always looking to meet the needs of children in rural areas in Kentucky. So.
That's great. Thank you. We will always do a meeting recap email to everyone who registered for our town hall. So we will definitely include all contact information in that as well. So another question, you all can decide who wants to field this question, but what do plans currently look like for the fall?
Well, we're all working on that together. I think that's a big question.
$1 million question.
Yeah, that is a $1 million question.
Yeah.
Neysa is our school age program specialist on the phone, and she's been working with a team on possible solutions and ideas for implementations. Neysa, do you want to speak a bit about some of the ideas?
Yeah, I can speak for school age, what we're looking at, because I think that's the big question right now. We are kind of going district by district. It's going to look different. I think the word for this year is flexibility. We have to be flexible. So right now, what we're seeing is a lot of schools are going to have in person and a virtual option. So we are trying to tailor our in-school program to meet the needs for the in-school kids. Sorry, getting mixed up here with my in-school and my after-school. In-school kids, we're trying to come up with a push-in program so that the tutors and the coordinators can go into the classroom and provide the same program that we would normally provide, but within the classroom that they're in, so that the kids aren't traveling, because we know that that's one of the restrictions. So that's our plan right now, but we are also developing an online plan that is going to look more supportive than maybe it did in the spring, because in the spring, it was all very new and we were kind of just trying to figure it out. And I heard a teacher say that we were kind of in crisis management mode, and that wasn't necessarily what virtual learning is going to look like in the fall. And I agree with that. I think that we're definitely going to step up our game for virtual learning in the fall. But we do have that on the back burner in case, something happens and we do have to go all virtual. As far as after school, we are leaving that up to the districts, whether they feel comfortable, hosting it after school. But we still are looking into possibly utilizing that time for families to host like open hours, to where we may have kids sign up and they get extra virtual help on their homework, or help with other activities to try to keep them engaged after school, since it might look a little bit different. But that is what we've came up with right now. It's still a work in progress, but we are definitely turning the wheels and trying to think outside the box for how it may look, and being flexible.
Yeah, flexibility is probably number one attribute for everyone right now, for sure. Just trying to figure it out as we go along with the information we receive. So we just have a few minutes left. I did want to throw this question out to all of our presenters today. So just kind of, as we've gone through these past few months of COVID, having to change on a dime, having to kind of reinvent programming, what do you think is something like maybe a lesson or a new way of doing things that you've been able to take away that you think could lend itself to kind of the future of how we do our work moving forward? I know it's kind of putting you on the spot, but I'd just love to hear from all your different perspectives, kind of what your thoughts are on that.
I think that a big takeaway is we have learned that a lot of things can be virtual and be successful that way. And I think, being open to doing things virtually, if that's what a family needs, might be the case. So I think that's definitely something that we've learned and that we can carry forward, is being flexible and knowing that if a family needs us to do something virtually, we can still meet their need that way.
I think for me, a takeaway has been how resilient children are, and how driven they are to learn in whatever environment they're in. They are actively pursuing learning opportunities. They have a strong desire to continue learning, and they can learn from anywhere. So we need to put the resources in their hands and ensure that we're meeting their needs, because they're definitely willing and ready to step up to the challenge.
Yeah, I'm always amazed at how adaptive our families are, in a lot of these communities. They're very resilient, just based upon circumstances and history. And I'm always amazed at how adaptive people can be.
That's actually, I was leaning in that direction as well, what Travis mentioned. And I think too that one of the things that we have found out in my programs is that just not to underestimate yourselves or the families that you work with, and that so many people are so willing and anxious to learn more and to do what's best for their children. I think that there's a misconception often that a lot of parents don't care and they just don't want to have to worry or bother with their children. And we have certainly found that that's not the case, that overall parents really want to do what's best and are very anxious and willing to step outside the box and find ways to make a better life for their kids.
Sarah, I really do appreciate you bringing up that point, because I think it's something that we all really need to keep top of mind. I think we've all been kind of smacked with the reality that we're all just trying to do the best we can. And so oftentimes, obviously, when families are experiencing living through poverty, all these things can be even further compounded. So it's always a good thing to remind ourselves about that, that we're all just kind of moving through and doing the best we can with the circumstances. So we are right at time. So I do want to thank all of you for presenting with us today. I want to thank everyone who joined us both here on our Zoom, and we've had lots of activity on our Facebook Live video as well. Again, we will be sharing all this information in our recap email. So thank you for joining us, and stay safe, everybody.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.